The goals for this panel discussion are discuss the unique challenges and opportunities faced by individuals living a mobile lifestyle, explore community building strategies, discuss ways to forge relationships with government entities and local businesses, to highlight the role of technology in maintaining connections within the mobile community, to emphasize the importance of being proactive and inclusive, to encourage joining advocacy and virtual groups to strengthen our community bonds, and to promote active contribution to the community's positive representation. Our 4 expert panelists today join us from a wide range of experiences under the big tent of vehicle residency. And I am very pleased to introduce Lisa B. Lisa is a full-time nomad, artist, and advocate who has worked for decades in the nonprofit sector as a community builder. She is passionate about nature, creative ventures, and supporting others. Together with a small team, she has created a project called Adventura Highway, which is a virtual space for community-fueled content, discussion, connections, and support. We have Janet Douglas. Janet is the founder of Nomads Helping Nomads Network and the steward of Luna Gaia Nomadic Village. Nomads Helping Nomads Network is a group dedicated to helping each other along our journeys, both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and socially. The Luna Gaia Nomadic Village is a working community located on 120 acres of land in Chambers, Arizona. Their objective is to provide a safe, enjoyable, and mutually beneficial environment for nomads and seekers to learn, earn, teach, grow, build, create, and blend. Dev Nain is a semi-retired software engineering and operations leader, a certified cloud solutions architect, and has been traveling the continent as a full-time nomad for almost 3 years. While on the road, he launched a successful consultancy business, Stratius, which is being showcased globally by Amazon Web Services. This startup, Stratius, created the Vanderoo app, built with the intention of serving the vehicle-dwelling community. Stratius is a sponsor of both HAWA's 2024 Rubber Tramp Rendezvous and the 2024 National Vehicle Residency Summit. Dev has also volunteered at the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous for each of the past 3 years. Last but definitely not least, we have Justin Caraway. Justin is an anthropologist, a van lifer, and the founder of GroundShare Co-ops in Northern California, where they are crafting affordable, vibrant communities for those who believe in giving more than they take and embracing harmonious living. GroundShare is more than just a place to live. It's a movement. They're pioneers in the quest for affordable social housing, blazing a trail for others to follow, proving that affordable housing can be both achievable and sustainable. So thank you very much to all 4 of you for coming to this today. Hopefully my questions don't come too far out of left field for you all. It is about building community after all. Audience Q&A will be reserved for the very end. And hopefully our chat mod filters some really great questions to us today. Our first question today, by the way, panelists, if you raise a hand, or you can just unmute, whichever you'd prefer, you're all co-hosts. The first question is, what is community and do we need it? What makes vehicle dwellers a community? Which of you would like to answer first? Let's see. Lisa, do you have an answer? Long silence.
I actually have an answer for the follow-up, but community is different things to different people. And I always say, unless we're absolutely self-sustaining, where we have our own fuel, we raise our own food, we need nobody. However, I think as human beings, we do rely on other people's. We're interdependent in a way. So Boy, vehicle dwellers as a community. I'd love to hear from some other people. I think it's a different kind of thing, because while we may not be in the same location, we definitely have this connectivity that reaches across continents, where we are all connected. And so we are a community in that sense. Do any of you have a thought on this?
Yeah. So I think the common thread there is there's commonalities, right? And that involves like beliefs, interests, values, goals, and location can be a part of the community, but it doesn't have to be, right? You can have other types of commonalities that bring people together. So absolutely, we are a community. And do we need a community? Yes, absolutely. I think there's the old saying, no man is an island. And that's as true as it is for society as it is for community, more specifically. Community offers connection, mental health, you name it, resources, all kinds of stuff is offered by community. So absolutely.
Go ahead, Janet.
One of the definitions that I like of community is a group of people who have a particular characteristic in common. And I don't know that in this world we are not involved in one community or another. So for me, it's not a matter of whether we need it, we are in it. And how can we use our community to benefit ourselves and each other once we identify what our commonalities are?
Those are pretty insightful answers. Justin, did you have anything to add?
I would define community. I like to go old school, like face-to-face, repeat interactions, friendships, colleagues. I think those are the most substantial forms of community. And digital stuff can be okay, but I don't think it really is the meat and potatoes of social relationships that make up a community. And we are social primates. We need each other. Health effects of social isolation are tremendous. It's on par with smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. The rates of loneliness in Americans are 58% of Americans think no one knows them. That's 60 to 73% for young people. We're at a 30-year low of life expectancy in the USA. Deaths of despair are climbing. So I think community is one of the biggest things we're missing in this country.
Thank you. No, you all have very, very good points. I'm going to move on to the next question since, well, I have 6 and we have only so much time. What are some of the reasons that community is important to vehicle residents? Who would like to start us off?
I definitely have something to say about this, Dee.
Go for it, Lisa.
So especially when people are new to this, there's a sense of safety just knowing that there's somebody else out there doing this, and it can feel very isolating. But if you know that there's 1, 2, 3, I mean, I don't know how many people is a community, but it can be small or large. Just knowing that there are other like-minded folks, that there's somebody to bounce ideas off of, share resources. The other thing is a sense of belonging. We are choosing an alternative way of living, and it isn't necessarily something that everybody understands. So to find other like-minded people can really help us with the emotional support or the coping with loneliness. It can also really help us with resources. This community, in my experience anyway, the most giving people ever. They will tell you, oh, this is a great spot, or I know somebody who needs help with this, or you want a job here, over here. And it's tremendous, especially in my experience, especially in the vehicle residency sector.
When you're in a parking lot with a bunch of other people, it just feels so much more safe and empowering than just being by yourself.
I totally agree. When I was living in an urban environment, I definitely preferred it if I had neighbors versus when I did not. Did any of you other quieter panelists have anything to add to this question? No? Then we'll continue. What is different about finding community as a vehicle dweller versus as a person living in traditional housing, the sticks and bricks?
Jump in on that, definitely. So I would say one thing, in sticks and bricks, for example, you've got bonds, right? You've got bonds that you create with your neighbor when you're taking your dog for a walk and you run into them. You see them every day, right? You might meet your people in your same town at your kids' karate classes or the town hall meeting, right? And things like government and businesses actually provide a kind of a forum for those bonds to be created, right? When you're on the road, you don't necessarily have all of that. You're kind of like you're contributing as you pass through towns to local businesses by visiting gas stations, restaurants, etc. And you don't have to have the burden of what like the local taxes and stuff, but you're missing out on the connections, right? You don't get that in those towns. You don't have, yes, you have community out there, but you've got to find that, right? It's not there's no platform there for you to easily find it, right? And so I think that's important. Like I'm really passionate about finding community through meshing with people, creating those bonds with other people on the road, as well as finding ways to do it with businesses and government. I think that's going to be important to us as a society, and I don't want to get into that too much. I know it's an awesome topic tomorrow on that, but absolutely, yeah.
But I think, Dave, you have a really good point. As vehicle dwellers, we sort of have to go more out of our way to establish these things because we can be more transient. There are people in one spot all the time, certainly as vehicle dwellers, but in some ways, it can also widen the circle. I mean, I've met more people as a vehicle dweller in these past 5 years than I ever met living in a sticks and bricks. And I don't know if it's because my mindset's more open as a vehicle dweller, or because I'm constantly experiencing new things all the time. But it definitely means that we have to be, I think, a little more diligent.
I agree. For vehicle dwellers, change is the norm, right? So we're always going somewhere. We're always meeting new people, circumstances. That if you see a van with solar panels on top, they're one of you, and so it's kind of a commonality. And you get to open up and meet each other. And with traditional housing has its issues too, though. Like you can meet people at church or school, like you said, to have beautiful. But I know people that live in a community and have never met their next door neighbor or live in an apartment complex and, going up and down the elevator and will not talk to each other, because they're so into the change and the solidity of who they are and what they are, and they're in either fear-based or just in their own head or whatever, that don't reach out. And we seem to be freer, more giving, more allowing, more inclusive, which makes it a little bit easier to connect.
Yeah, I walk my dogs a lot, and I might wave at the neighbors, but everybody's in their own little fortress. With van life, there's places like the van life campground in Joshua Tree, and if you put an Instagram handle on your van, it helps people reach out more. But it feels like there's a lot more opportunity for social cohesion than everybody who just goes and locks themselves in their own little compound and drive to work. And the cost of living too, when you're doing this alternative lifestyle, you can not work all the time. You can work seasonally, you can find hustles. When you're in a sticks and bricks, it very much eats your life full time.
With that, we'll move on to the next question. Thank you very much for your answers, everyone. What physical or technological resources are available to aid in finding or building a mobile community? Who would like to start us off?
I'll start us off on that one. I know for me, I use social media immediately, and through word of mouth, websites, and I'll just spout some off that I love, like cheaprvliving.com and Homes on Wheels Alliance. I have a Facebook group, Nomads Helping Nomads Network, for networking, and Escapees RV Club. There are so many resources if you're willing to reach out. There's camping apps. There's social networking apps that are specific for vehicle dwellers and things. And so it's quite a bit. If you're wanting to connect, build community, you can.
I'll add a few more. You know, on YouTube, just if you search for van life, if you look at Facebook, there's a million groups. You know, Janet's Nomads and Helping Nomads, of course. But if you search for van life, you search for nomads. If you search for even homesteaders potentially that are interested in meeting these, you know, our people living our lifestyle. You know, I'll mention Lisa's Adventure Highway, which is a great informative resource. You've got on the apps. Well, let me start with Homes on Wheels Alliance is fantastic for people coming out and you know, coming onto the road for the first time. They've got the virtual caravans, which are great. If you go to Homes on Wheels Alliance.com or org, I forget. Apologies. And then in terms of the apps, you know, some of those apps like iOverlander, I've met so many people on the road, had interesting conversations based on where I choose to, you know, spend the night, for example, like a Cracker Barrel parking lot. You know, I've had interesting conversations with people I meet there. Seeker is a really good one to kind of find community. They're also going towards kind of integrating some like businesses and things like that, campgrounds. The Vanderoo app, which is having a launch event next month. All kinds of, you know, different resources out there. It's just, you just have to just click a few buttons and look for them.
And truly, it can be just as simple as us interacting with society. Like, you know, instead of us really hiding, oh, we're doing this, you know, say, boy, I travel everywhere and I do this. And this is, you know, I'm an artist, I'm a tech person, whatever it is. And talking to people, it can build connections and build community that way, just letting people know who you are or what you're doing or any of that. That's the physical part of it anyway. Going back to Justin's thing about the real life, real interpersonal interactions, you know, so maybe somebody's interested in gardening, and then before you know it, you're helping out with a, you know, community garden space or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with all those. I would add farmers markets, like at ground share co-ops. We're trying to combine semi-nomadic lifestyle with homesteading. So gardening and just local engagement with where our food comes from. So whatever you do in your van life or your residential or your vehicle living, go down the rabbit hole of what your passions are and you'll meet people that way. There's a lot of van life festivals. Yeah, Facebook group. But I think as a movement, we need to put bumper stickers that have our like Instagram handles so then people can message and interact more in parking lots, because I've seen a lot of people all parking next to each other and no one coming out and like talking to each other.
There is a movement underway where people that are purchasing private property and allowing people to stop in and stop by, forming a network of private properties where we can commune and work. And like you said, van life campgrounds, an amazing thing that's going on. So there are definitely new movements coming on to make sure we can physically be together as well as connect through the virtual avenues.
Mm-hmm. A van life campground ground share co-ops, the escapees, they all have co-owned properties. So it kind of takes it out of the whole capitalistic pay to like park somewhere. And I think Luna Guy is working towards that too. And I think that is the next step for, yeah, sharing the ground together.
Some more physical places, Schoolipalooza, Van Aid, these types of events are very valuable to meeting people.
I'd say also Bend, Oregon, Sedona, Arizona, Mount Shasta, California. There's some places where there's just so many van lifers, and if you go camp in the woods somewhere, you might meet some friendly hippies.
You know, between the four of you, you managed to list off some resources that even I didn't know about. So kudos. The next question we've got are, how do the needs of new nomads differ from those of experienced nomads? And how can both groups contribute to the community?
Well, definitely. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lisa.
New nomads to, you know, they're new, right? So they're coming in, and a lot of times, in my experience, there's a lot of fear of the unknown and trying to bridge the gaps and figure out how they can fit into things. But you know, the upside is they bring fresh new ideas that can invigorate communities, some of the more established nomadic communities. And the nomads that have been doing it a while, it's a great source of information and comfort and normalcy to kind of see, look, I've been doing this and I'm okay. It's good. Life is beautiful. You know, we all might have different, even if you're new or old, you might have a different need for community in different levels. But, you know, nomads who have done it a while can take on more of a mentoring role and pay it forward, and offer more of a sense of stability. But, you know, even new nomads where there's a little bit more trepidation, they can really offer some fresh ideas and bridge gaps between groups even.
I 100% agree. I feel like Lisa took the words right out of my mouth. All nomads, from when you say all experienced nomads, they've got it down, right? They've been doing it a while. They know what they need to do, which offers them a great opportunity to be mentors. I've received a lot of mentorship in my early years on the road. But you know, like Lisa said, new nomads are going to bring new ideas, and they can really challenge the status quo. And you know, I think, you know, we've talked about there being a lot of isolation, you know, in this environment sometimes. Well, I think new nomads can come along and help create those connections that we need.
Anyone else have anything to add, or shall I move on?
I agree. And spaces like Howard has their training and Ground Share and Luna Gaia, like the physical spaces where you can get the weekend warriors, like the Van Life Campground at Joshua Tree, you get LA people for the weekend, meet more full-time people. That cross-pollination in real life it's a really good thing, and you never know what you'll learn.
No, I totally agree with all of you. It's important to have that blending. It builds a vibrant community. But on a more serious note, I mean, nomads sometimes have difficulty connecting with their environments around them they moved into. So what actions can we as individuals take to forge equitable relationships with each other, government entities, and local commerce and business? Who would like to start us off?
I would like to begin if you don't mind. One of my favorite things to do is to volunteer. If you love animals, you can volunteer at the animal shelters. If you see a flea market, you know, and you can volunteer to, you know, help pick up trash or something. Getting to know your community if I have a need, I don't mind going into a sheriff's office or a police station and introducing myself. And look, I'm going to be here for a little bit. I do sleep in my vehicle. Can you recommend safe place, for me to stay? And many, especially when you're in a smaller community, many of the places are very receptive to that. With your going to the coffee shop and getting to know those people, using the available things, even contacting the Chamber of Commerce, and putting in a good word for our community, that kind of thing.
You're so right, Janet. On Adventura Highway, one of our last episodes, and we feature somebody new every week at 4 o'clock on Wednesdays. And we had Baja Frank, who not only has been a nomad for a number of years, but because he is a nomad, he's able to do volunteer work for the American Red Cross and go to underserved areas where they've been hit by natural disasters. And so that kind of presence, that kind of volunteerism really says a lot, in addition to we provide a lot of monetary benefit to communities. Some of the communities that don't see any tourism, and we just come in there and we buy food, buy gas, we patronize shops. So I love that. And definitely getting involved in community affairs. Like if there are issues, if we can be presences at these meetings. Go ahead, Dave. I'm so sorry.
I absolutely agree, Lisa and Janet. I think the way I'm thinking about it is a three-step thing, right? One is we need to kind of forge those connections between ourselves, right, as individuals, as part of the community, get to know each other, which we are doing through events like this. And then once we can kind of get the message, that positive message among us, messages like be patient with others and yourself. There's a lot of talk about mental health in this environment, things like that. The same issues exist in Sticks and Bricks, right? It just gets talked about a lot in this environment for various reasons. But I think there's opportunities to do a lot of this and doing it in a structured way, right? Where there's an opportunity to make it accentuated, make it more visible to the media, for instance, doing it through programs like the Homes on Wheels Alliance and creating relationships with BLMs. So the way I see it is, first we as individuals need to come together, right? Build those connections. Then we need to kind of get businesses involved, help them see the value. Local businesses, go up to a local business and say, hey, I'm working with so and so. Maybe you can get Hawa or someone to get involved with that, and say, hey, I'd love for us to come through and clean up your area. Are you interested in sponsoring it? Something like that, right? And so get them to see value in us as people passing through their localities, who are bringing value, who are not leaving behind trash, but actually are the ones picking it up, right? So get the world to see us as that, and then that'll get businesses invested in us as a positive force. And then, we can start to think about influencing government, and things like grants pass wouldn't be an issue, for example. So that's how I'm thinking about it. But I think it starts with, being patient with others and yourself, right? Be a good person.
I also think for me, picking a range, like a small range that I want to travel in, so I can put down some more routes, has really helped, because in van life, you can travel all the time and never really need to have good relationships with anybody. So it's a game changer when you actually stay localized, and then you can start to make those repeat interactions with the sheriff or the forest service. You can clean up, and the properties too, like you can only camp on a lot of land for a few weeks. So you either have to move or you have to find some property you can invest in. So hoping ground share co-ops and Luna Gaia, Van Life Campground, all these places will give people more of as much stability as they want, while still having the freedom to travel. And I think that's the first step to building these relationships is semi-localizing.
And I think coming to all of these entities with the attitude or the heart of how can I help? What can I help? What can I bring to the table? You know, what skills do I have? That seems to me like that's always a great point of entry for anything, and openness when people come. You know, I can plan, I can volunteer, whatever it is.
I would like to uh, go address Deb's share. I just love we as individuals have to start with ourselves, and I think they've just implemented that. And I personally love what's known as the 4 agreements, which is don't take anything personally. You know, that person that's at the gas station that's in a bad mood, and he might have just had an anxiety attack, or maybe somebody's father just died and they're not, so what, our actions aren't necessarily in malice. So don't take it personally if it makes you uncomfortable or something. And then don't assume that this person's mad at you. That could be mad at their mother or something like that. You just never know. And just keeping ourselves individually clean. Always do your best, and we as nomads especially like to leave a place cleaner than we found it, that kind of thing. We don't know what traumas, even on my property, one person left in the middle of the night because he thought he was having a heart attack, and he left all his stuff and the trash and everything. But I mean, I didn't know what happened, but I knew later. And you just can't judge something by appearances. And then be impeccable with your words. Language is one of the barriers to good communication and coming into community, because I may say a word that means one thing to me because of my cultural background, and it means something else to somebody else. And if we can communicate, because we're so diverse, I mean, this community is diverse, and we're traveling not only in the States, but global. And so we want to make sure that we start with our others.
Thank you so much, all of you. I'm going to move us into audience Q&A. A couple of these are just sort of some specific examples based on earlier answers. So for example, question 1 is regarding deaths of despair. What can we do to keep from becoming isolated when we are transient? Would any of you like to tackle that question?
Reach out. That is the most thing. I believe we were not put on this earth to feel happy. We were put on this earth to feel fully. And we need to explore all of those emotions and allow others. It takes a village. Allow others to help us through those, and share our experiences when it can help someone else. So just reach out.
No, I
Pets
totally
are
agree.
great
Go
too.
ahead.
If you can have some pets on the road.
Pets are very healing. So is nature. Nature can make perspective happen.
And I guess I would examine your transience. Can you put down roots somewhere? Are you working? Do you have colleagues? Like, there's connections everywhere. You just gotta re-examine your thoughts, I guess.
That kind of segues into the second question. How can nomads have ties to communities that they visit? You've given some examples previously, but do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think we talked about some of this already. I think getting involved with NVRC, Homes on Wheels Alliance, grab the vendor web. Yes, Dee. Get involved with these kind of organizations where it's bringing people together for that purpose, right? To do this in positive ways. For example, the Homes on Wheels Alliance had a cleanup event outside of Pahrump, Nevada, a few months ago. Those are kinds of things that local media might be interested in spotlighting, right? So there's ways to kind of shine the light on our community in a very positive way through those kinds of activities. So get involved with organizations, and yeah, that's it. Get involved.
Thank you. Did anyone else have anything to add? No? All right. Well, the next question is from Tim McCormick, specifically for Justin. Tim McCormick's from Portland currently. I believe he connected with you while visiting North California, the ground share sites possibly. The question was, how do you foresee people dwelling at your sites, all in their own vehicles, or renting vehicle dwellings there, or vehicles as well as buildings, or all in buildings? There's a lot of options.
Thanks for the question. I'm not sure if I've met him or not, but so I kind of think of ground share co-ops as like a land development group. We try to buy properties and subdivide them into nice nooks for people to use. And it's kind of up to them if they want to park their trailer or van or a tiny house. As long as they play nice with their neighbors and they cover their costs for their portion of their property. And they cover their own legalities.
Okay.
May I address with Luna Gaia?
Yeah.
So Luna Gaia Nomadic Village has different options. We have a community house. Most people come and have a vehicle that they live in, or they have a tent. They're tent campers. I get a lot of that. There's so many ways. Eventually, we will be building little tiny homes, maybe some hot yurts. There's just, I can envision cob homes, just a variety, because we're so diverse and so many people want different things. So there are as many ways to live, and I want all of that here so that everybody could experience whatever they want to experience.
I wish there was an intentional community up here in Seattle. Goodness, guys, you make it sound like the best thing in the world, really. The next and probably last question for today is, from any of the panelists' experience, is there any one particular geographic area of the United States that seemingly has a stronger sense of nomad community than others? Where's the best place to be if you want friends?
The obvious answer is Quartzsite in the winter. Because it is I believe the last time I looked, it was like normally 40,000 people, maybe even smaller than that. But then in the winter, it grows to over 2 million. And that is in the greater Quartzsite area, like about a 75 to 100 mile area. So, and we are all in vehicles that I can tell, or out of our vehicles. Great for meeting people too.
I think that's absolutely right. Quartzsite is fantastic to meet nomads. I think it tends to be a matter of a lot of it is weather driven. Folks tend to be in the southwest region of the country during the winter season, and then they kind of tend to spread out. A lot of folks kind of go up the East Coast. I think I believe it was Justin who said like Oregon Bend is a very popular place. So there's definitely places along the West Coast that are very popular. And I mean, I've met nomads and had wonderful conversations with nomads across the country. Those tend to be, in the summer, or spring or fall. You'll find people love to go to like Maine in the fall for the leaves. So you'll find people out there, and you connect with them. I recently myself met folks in Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois. We're all over the place, so it's very much in the southwest, but you can meet nomads everywhere.
You'll see camper vans, but I like Van Life Campground. What they do, it's like more of a small, intimate setting. A lot of the festivals are pretty big, and like Quartzite's huge too. So I like the smaller, intimate stuff. Howa does have camp together groups. But yeah, the big ones are Quartzite, Bend, Oregon, Eureka, Arcata, California coast. All Oregon. The Oregon coast is huge in the summer. It's a nice place to stay cool. But yeah, seeing them and connecting with them and finding something to do other than sitting around a fire and talking endlessly, like that's why I'm trying to do the homesteading aspect, because I think you develop relationships a lot better and deeper when you're working together, doing physical work together.
Well, that's a good point, Justin, because, I mean, I say, Quartzsite in the winter, but, those 2.5, 2 million people in the winter usually go up north in the summer, and then they do work camping, and they host campgrounds where, all the tourists come, and where we go too when we want to see sites and stuff like that. So they're work camping, and you get such a whole nother sense of people when you're doing work camping at the campgrounds or national parks or anything like that. And yeah, and definitely state parks and any of your camping places. It's much easier to get to know people, for sure. State parks and national forests and things.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, all four of you. This has been very insightful, very interesting, and honestly, very uplifting for those of us who have lived in our vehicles. It's very nice to hear that there are ways to form community, build community, and maintain it, no matter where you are in your travels. This session is over at this point. We're going to have a 15-minute break until the next set. Thank you, Janet, Lisa, Justin, and Dave. You were fantastic. And really, I can't thank you enough for coming and giving your insight today at this panel.
Thank you.
Welcome. We're happy to be here.
Glad to be here, and I'm excited for the future of nomadic community.
I think we all are after this.
You can make it happen anywhere, guys.
And if we're involved with the National Vehicle Residency Coalition, I mean, we're going to be advocating and making it happen for sure. We need to keep doing the work. Collective.